What if I told you that in a single 24-hour window, Bitcoin reclaimed a psychological price level that had eluded it for weeks, a tokenization platform rang the opening bell on the New York Stock Exchange, and a DeFi protocol quietly made it possible for anyone to hold a slice of one of the world's most popular index ETFs on a blockchain? That is precisely what happened on July 3, 2026, and if you are paying attention to where traditional finance and digital assets are converging, these three stories belong in the same conversation. Let's get into it. Bitcoin pushed back above the $60,000 mark on the 3rd of July, ending a period of consolidation that had kept bulls frustrated for weeks. This level is not just a round number, it carries significant psychological weight. Each time Bitcoin has held above $60,000 historically, it has attracted a fresh wave of institutional inflows, and with BlackRock's IBIT, the iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, continuing to be one of the most actively watched spot Bitcoin products in the United States, a move back above this threshold will almost certainly show up in inflow data over the coming days. The recovery also comes ahead of a long holiday weekend in America, a period that has historically seen thinner liquidity and therefore amplified price swings in either direction. The fact that buyers were willing to push price above $60,000 into reduced liquidity suggests conviction rather than opportunistic trading. Keep an eye on whether Bitcoin can consolidate above this level through the weekend, because a confirmed hold would set the stage for a test of the mid-60,000s in the near term. Perhaps the single most symbolic event of the 3rd of July was Securitize listing on the New York Stock Exchange. Securitize is not a household name to the average retail investor, but within digital assets it is one of the most important infrastructure companies operating today. The firm specializes in the tokenization of real-world assets, essentially the process of representing ownership of a traditional financial instrument, whether that is equity, a bond, a fund, or real estate, as a digital token on a blockchain. Its clients include some of the largest names in asset management, and it has been the operational backbone behind several landmark tokenized fund launches in recent years. A public listing on the Nyse is a significant vote of confidence in tokenization as a durable, regulated business rather than a fringe experiment. It brings Securitize under the scrutiny and governance frameworks that come with being a publicly traded company, which should provide institutional clients with additional comfort. More importantly, it signals that capital markets infrastructure is beginning to acknowledge tokenization as a core part of its future, not an optional add-on. On the same day, Ondo Finance announced the launch of tokenized versions of two very specific and notable assets, BlackRock's iShares Core S&P 500 ETF, known by its ticker IVV, and Micron Technology's listed equity. This is worth unpacking carefully. IVV is one of the largest and most liquid ETFs in the world, tracking the S&P 500 index with an expense ratio of just 3 basis points. By tokenizing IVV, Ondo is creating a blockchain-native representation of broad American equity market exposure. Meanwhile, Micron is a heavyweight in the semiconductor sector, a company whose fortunes are closely tied to AI infrastructure spending and the global memory chip cycle. The choice of these two assets is deliberate. They represent different risk profiles. IVV is about as close to diversified, low-volatility equity exposure as you can get, while Micron offers concentrated, higher beta exposure to one of the hottest sectors in technology. Together, they give on-chain investors a meaningful range of choice. The tokenized shares operate on blockchain rails, meaning they can potentially be traded around the clock, used as collateral in DeFi protocols, or transferred globally without the friction of traditional brokerage infrastructure. It would be easy to look at the Securitize IPO and the Ondo announcement in isolation, but taken together with the broader market context, they form part of a clear and accelerating trend. The tokenization of real-world assets, often abbreviated to RWA, has gone from a theoretical talking point to a genuinely active market segment. BlackRock, through its involvement with both IBIT and the IVV ETF that Ondo has now tokenized, is arguably the most important traditional finance institution lending credibility to this space. When the world's largest asset manager has its products appearing on blockchain networks, the institutional conversation shifts from whether to engage with tokenization to how quickly to deploy at scale. The competition is also intensifying. Securitize public listing will provide it with fresh capital and a public currency to fund acquisitions and partnerships. Other tokenization platforms will be watching closely and the pressure to scale will increase. For investors, this means the infrastructure layer of tokenized finance is maturing rapidly, even if the end-user products are still in relatively early stages of adoption. The confluence of Bitcoin's recovery, the Securitize listing, and the Ondo announcements arrived at a moment when broader crypto market sentiment had been cautious. The move back above $60,000 in Bitcoin has a direct knock-on effect on altcoins and DeFi tokens, as market participants tend to increase risk appetite across the board when the flagship asset is showing strength. Ondo Finance's native token will be watched carefully by traders looking to front-run anticipated demand for its tokenized product suite. Securitize, now publicly listed, gives traditional equity investors a way to gain exposure to the tokenization sector without holding digital assets directly, a pathway that many institutional allocators have been waiting for. Meanwhile, IBIT, BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF, remains one of the most closely watched instruments in both the crypto and traditional ETF universe, and a sustained Bitcoin rally above $60,000 would be expected to accelerate net inflows into that vehicle. In short, sentiment has shifted noticeably in the space of a single trading day. Looking ahead from today, the 4th of July, there are several key things to monitor. First, Bitcoin's ability to hold above $60,000 through the American holiday weekend will be critical. Thin liquidity cuts both ways. It can exaggerate moves to the upside but equally makes the market vulnerable to sharp reversals on low volume. Second, watch for any official statements or filings from Securitize following its Nyse debut, particularly around how it plans to use its IPO proceeds and whether it announces new tokenization partnerships in the near term. Third, Ondo Finance's tokenized IVV and Micron products will face an early adoption test. Trading volumes, on-chain liquidity, and whether major DeFi protocols integrate these assets as collateral will tell us a great deal about genuine demand versus speculative noise. Finally, keep an eye on whether any other major DeFi or tokenization platforms respond with competing product launches. The space moves quickly and a successful Ondo rollout will not go unanswered for long. The 3rd of July, 2026 was the kind of day that will likely appear in retrospective analyses of how digital assets grew up. Bitcoin reclaiming $60,000 reminds us that the market's underlying demand has not gone away. Securitize ringing the bell on the Nyse marks a moment where tokenization infrastructure earned its place in the public markets. And Ondo Finance bridging one of the world's most popular index ETFs onto a blockchain is a practical demonstration that the wall between traditional finance and on-chain finance is not just cracking, it is coming down. Whether you are a long-term Bitcoin holder, a DeFi participant, or simply someone trying to understand where financial markets are heading, these three stories belong on your radar. The convergence of regulated finance and blockchain technology is no longer a future event. It is happening right now, and days like yesterday show exactly how fast the pace has become. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please do consider subscribing so you never miss a daily breakdown like this one.